First of all, my name is Winifred Irigi. I am the CEO of Think STEM Foundation, which is a non-profit organization where we do a lot of STEM education and advocacy and outreach to the K to 12 community. I'm also the WITI Charlotte Network Director. It's so good to see all of you here. At WITI, our mission really is to build an inclusive culture. And the way we do that is by providing programs like these network events where people from different organizations come, they get inspired, they get empowered, they get revved up, ready to go back to work and deliver on objectives, and they get to make friends, so it's a safe community and it's a learning community for you to pick up one or two things, to add to your knowledge base. We also do webinars. We also have courses on our WITI website where you can actually go if you want to do a deeper dive into any topic of interest. One of the courses we have coming up is Economic Prosperity Series. It's going to be given by my friend, my high school friend. I've known her since 12-year-old. I got her on board WITI too, and that course is it's going to be given by Ngozi Bell. So if you go to our website, you will see different things. You will see there will be more courses in 2021. So we do network events. We have courses. We also have a coaching portal where you can get one-on-one coaching or you can do group coaching. We're going to be onboarding a mentoring program. So we have different programs, and our goal really for organizations is to help organizations in the area of employee engagement and retention, and to just help organizations build an innovative culture, a culture of innovation, a culture of inclusion. So we're looking at ourselves as a one-stop solution. So we like to say where organizations can be powered by WITI, organizations and individuals. My focus in WITI Charlotte, because WITI has so many networks, my focus in WITI Charlotte is leadership development. So I'm a leadership trainer, and my goal is next year there'll be so many other courses, and you can actually travel the journey in terms of leadership training and get a certificate at the end of the day. So today we have Coach AK Ikwako. I forgot to ask him how to pronounce his last name.
You got it right.
Oh, I did a good job. So Coach AK taught in my children's high school. My children went to St. Paul's boarding school in Concord, New Hampshire, and both of them, and Coach AK taught there, was their sports coach. And so through LinkedIn, we got to connect with each other. He has moved on from there. My kids are now grown adults. So one in Stanford, one in Princeton. So Coach AK and I have kept in touch, but this is the first time I'm, after a lot of years, I'm meeting him face to face. So I'll give you a brief about him. Coach AK is a former top 10 world ranked athlete turned serial entrepreneur, speaker, and executive coach. He's currently the founder of Mobile XA, an accountability and business coaching platform to help early stage entrepreneurs and teams 10 times productivity, to help them improve their productivity and recover lost revenue from their unfinished task list. In addition to his own ventures, which have included everything from sports diplomacy, global education, athlete performance, to even fashion, AK advises and serves as a consultant to companies ranging from early stage startups to Fortune 100 companies like Google. AK's work has been featured in Sports Illustrated, Addicted to Success, Thrive Global, and several others. AK currently resides in Boston with his partner Yasmin and 8-year-old daughter. You can listen to Coach AK every morning on his daily podcast, Mornings with Coach AK, where he offers daily inspiration and quick tips to start the day off right. One fun thing I found out about Coach AK is that he's a twin. He has a twin brother.
I'm a triplet.
You're a triplet. Oh my goodness, that sounds more interesting. I thought I'd found something I would surprise you with. You are a triplet. Wow.
Yeah.
I know your brother is an actor and he acts with one of these big wigs, you know. So, I mean, that's just some background I found out about you. So, you are a triplet. So, tell us more about. So, the stage is open to you, Coach AK, to start your presentation.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here. And we're actually going to start in about 2 minutes because I want everyone to actually get their cameras on. This is going to be a very engaging conversation, and also grab a pen and a paper. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do that. So cameras on and a pen and paper. I'll give you 2 minutes.
So Coach AK, tell us about your triplets. Yeah. Where are they located? Where are your brothers? While we're doing the 2 minutes.
Yeah. So we are located, my brother is located in Los Angeles and my sister's located in DC, and I'm the youngest of 6, right? So also, just real quick, as we're everybody getting a pen and getting their cameras on, what I want everybody to do is also think of one of your favorite books or movies that had a really strong impact on you, okay? A book or a movie that had a really strong impact on you. Okay? And when you're ready, I want you into the chat, put your name and then that favorite book. Okay, so we have a pen and paper. Okay, so your name and then that favorite book or movie. All right, this is going to be highly engaging. And the whole goal of today is we're going to be covering a lot, and I want to make sure that we provide the most value as possible. We went with Dune, Boom Boom, Lord of the Flies, Trish, Joy Luck Club, all right, The World According to Garp.
So I can read that out to you. Lindsay Smith says Tales of a Fourth Grade, Nothing, an Invisible Man. And Adelaide says The World According to Garp. Elaine says, I recently watched Picture a Scientist, which was very impactful, even though it's not my favorite. I watched that too. That's great. Esther Babutu said anything by David Safaris. Then Funke said Joy Luck Club. Trish Odusami said Lord of the Flies.
So it's good. So I want to go more data. So Elaine, you were talking about it was very impactful, even though it's not your favorite. Can you just go in a little more detail in that, Elaine? Remember the Titans, one of my favorites.
Picture a Scientist is a recent movie that came out. It's a documentary which focuses on three female professors, and it shows the impact of gender harassment, gender discrimination in the scientific academic community. Mm-hmm. And it's not my favorite because it's a serious topic. It's not like a fun movie to watch. It's actually kind of triggering in some ways for a lot of people. But it was very impactful to see what sexual harassment, sexual discrimination means, because there's very many ways in which discrimination can occur. And it was interesting to see how these 3 women were still very successful despite all of the roadblocks that they had in their careers.
No, thank you. So when we're thinking about, we all have these stories, we have these books, like what made them, and if you could just put like one word, like what made these so impactful to you? Like what words come up and you kind of just shout them out. Like what made them so impactful to you?
They persevered.
Persevered? Anything else?
And this
is for everybody. Like everybody can just like relatable.
I'll stop there.
Like everybody, this is for everybody. Everybody can shout out. Like it was relatable, perseverance. What else was there?
Susan Ritchie says emotional. Haley Dennis says determination. Terentia Brown says courage. Haley Dennis says willpower.
So it's all with these, right? So these are things that when we think about, there's thousands of movies out there, right? And within these stories, they've been really, really impactful to us in some type of way. And today, our goal is really to talk about what's going to really make an engaging and powerful story, especially when we're talking about when it comes to really providing value for our customers. Now, within this room, does anybody work in an organization or they are the founder of an organization or a company? Right? Okay. Now, if I were to do a quick poll, and you can put this into the chat, of what would you say is the number one factor that is regarding influence. Right, one second. Let me say 1 second. So there's something going on.
Yeah, we wanted to share Paul. We don't have Paul started. David, we don't have Paul on. Do you want to share Paul?
No. So what's happening is I was sharing my screen. Something came up. So let me just do. 1 second. I'm just gonna do something.
So you asked the question while you are doing that. Susan Ritchie is the founder of an organization. You asked the question, so she says she is the founder of an organization.
So tell me your role in terms of when you're trying to communicate a message to your employees and how that, and tell me about that process and how that went.
That question is for Susan Ritchie.
That's a great question, and I can tell you, I started my first company when I was pretty young. I was 25 years old, and that's 20 years ago. So it's funny because I've seen my communication become more effective, I should say, over the years just by learning how to communicate better. So when I communicate messages to my team, I make sure that I make sure I really think out what is the end result that I want to achieve and make sure that I am including the details that they'll need along the way. So hope that helps.
And what are some challenges along the way as well? And this is for everybody. Obviously, everybody came here because they want to work on telling a better story. What have you realized has been some roadblocks or some challenges as we're going through that process?
For me, I think it's been like, I don't want to say miscommunication, but misunderstanding. So what you say and what somebody hears are often something, it can be different.
Right. Okay. So what they hear and it's making sure that they're all on the same page. Okay. So what I want to do is, like I said, real briefly, is if you had to say of this list on the personal side in terms of influence, like these are power influences, which one would you say actually gainers the most power, right? Would you say on the personal side, would you say it's someone's knowledge, someone's expressiveness, someone's history, attraction, or character? What would you say?
Expressiveness.
Expressiveness. Anybody else? Anybody else? What is that? Just kind of throw that out. And
so Tina says character, Tina Muhuriri says character, and Abili says resources. Susan Ritchie says character, Raquel says knowledge.
So one of the ones I said character, was it Riki? She said character, correct?
Yes.
So tell me, why did you pick character?
I think when it comes to influencing individuals, that they look at who you are as a person. Do you really stand behind what you're saying? Do your actions and your words match? I just think your personal character is very important for people to be influenced by you.
Exactly, 100%, right? And what would you say within a company is the most important? That gives you the most power to influence. We got role, we got resources, information, your network, reputation. What would you say?
I'm going to go with reputation.
Okay, right? It's actually for the correct. So personal is character and organization is reputation and network. And now you're going to wonder, like, why is this important, especially as we're talking about storytelling in this context? Meaning, if you can be the greatest storyteller, but if you don't have good relationships and a good character, it's actually going to hurt your influence and the way that you're actually able to make the impact that you want to have. Now, as we're going into the next stage, is what I want everybody to do is get a piece of paper and we're going to do a quick activity. What I want you to do is I want you to make a list of what makes you who you are, right? I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to do this. I'm going to write a list of what makes you who you are. That could be hobbies, that could be friends and family, places, experience. Now, the only rule is I don't want you to overthink it. Like whatever comes to your mind first, I want you to put that down. Okay. Now, one of the rules is don't put like family, like put it together. Instead, put like the individual people in your family. Don't categorize. Categorize. Okay. Like moments, things that bring you joy, regrets. Like what makes you who you are? If you're writing, you're doing it correctly. So you can get over 15 or 20 even. But what makes you, you? Maybe 30 more seconds. Okay. It's not a test, don't worry. There's no right or wrong answer. Last 10 seconds. Okay. Now, obviously, I'm sure we didn't get all pieces to who you are, but if you were able to get, we'll say 10 or more, raise your hand. 15 or more, just count it up real quickly. 20 or more, you'll say? Okay. So what we're gonna do, we're actually momentarily gonna put you in the breakout rooms, but the whole goal is, and we're gonna talk about this momentarily, is after we get into the breakout rooms, but I want you to go into your breakout rooms, and all I want you to do is just simply share what's on your list, what you feel the most comfortable, right? In a bullet point format. All right, so we're gonna put you into breakout rooms momentarily, and all I want you to do is simply just share what's on your list with the other people in the group. And if you're trying to decide who's gonna go first, we'll just say the person with the lighter shirt goes first, okay? Any questions? Okay, so you're gonna receive a link momentarily. Pop-up should come into your screen momentarily. That will then put you into the groups, but all you simply
Did I do it too early?
Yeah, you did a little too early, I think.
I'm sorry, Coach. My bad.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, but I closed all the rooms and I'm going to bring everybody back. I apologize.
Oh, no, what's wrong?
No, I brought everybody back because I think I jumped the gun. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that was good. So I should have 1 second. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go 3 minutes, not 9 minutes. So 3 minutes. So just a minute each to go in and find the breakout rooms and share. Okay.
No.
I need one quick brave volunteer. I'm gonna kind of point out. Let's say Esther.
Yes.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. So I'm gonna have you do an example, right? These are all a bowl of fruit. But if I were to say, I want you to select one bowl of fruit without telling anybody in the room what it is, all you can do is describe this particular bowl of fruit without saying the number, okay? In 30 seconds, what I want you to do is you're going to describe the bowl of fruit that you are looking at, and try to make it a little bit also challenging as well.
Okay. So the bowl itself would be pretty light if you would pick it up. There are only 3 types of fruit in this bowl. One of the fruits is yellow, one is orange, and one is red.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Don't give the answer away. All right. So if you had to put into the chat, like, which one do you think the bowl of fruits, the one Esther's describing is?
Bang in the middle.
Right in the
In
middle.
the middle? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Did anybody think it was something different? All right. What made that, so Esther, I'm gonna ask you a question. So what made that easy and what made that challenging, or the most challenging? What was the easiest part of that?
the most challenging part was like trying to figure out, or the easiest part was like describing the fruit that existed. So like surface area. But then how to distinguish that bowl from other bowls was harder. So I wanted to give a clue that was like very direct. And so I would say that was the most challenging part.
Okay. And and people that were individuals that guessed, like, what would you say was helpful? Like, what clues was Esther giving that helped you identify which bowl of fruit it was?
The weight, the fruit count, and then the color red is what differentiated it from the one next to it. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say she used the process of elimination, so she easily eliminated quite a lot of options by describing which she had 3 fruits in it, so there were only 2 left, really.
Okay. So as we're going through that, so why do you think we did that particular activity, and how do you think it connects to storytelling?
We need to pick out the uniqueness.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you. How do you say it? Yan Ying?
Yes.
Right. So exactly. When we're taking a story, like how often are we having conversations with people and we say, how are you? And the response is what usually?
Fine.
Good, fine.
Good.
Right? Yeah. Does anybody actually know why we're good or why we're fine? No.
I don't think most people care when they ask it. Because otherwise you'd ask me something else.
Right, exactly. Right. And the whole goal is when we're telling a story, the first step is when you're telling the story is to be specific. Right. When I usually think about telling a story, we want to go deeper, right? Because when you go deeper, it actually is able for us to identify exactly what you are talking to us about. And when I use the word stories, most people think it's a book, but I usually see it as it's the narrative behind the words and labels and phrases we use each and every single day. So it's not only the story in a book or a company, but we ourselves are a story as well. And the goal is always like, how can we go deeper and deeper and deeper? Now, there's a lot today that I'm going to cover, so I'm just going to talk about 3 of those today. Now, there's a perfect example of this. Now, I went to the store to get a shirt. Quick question. Does anybody know what store we went to from this example? Like what vision comes up?
A box store.
Department store.
Department store.
Like Walmart, maybe the mall.
Right.
A shirt store.
A shirt store?
Shirts. Yep.
Right. So when somebody says a store, and we use the example of a Walmart versus, let's say, a Calvin Klein, does that particular shirt have a different image to it?
Yep.
Right. I see some nods. Like, why is it?
Yes.
What would be the quality? At the Walmart? The quality? Okay.
What it's associated with, the meaning behind it.
The meaning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The purpose of it. So is it like a sports shirt?
Exactly.
Or a t-shirt. Mm-hmm.
T-shirt. Right. So when we even think about it, we think about, and that's just one word, right? The store. I just changed that one word, the store. But let's do the same thing about if I say the style of shirt, right? If I say, like, what kind of shirt? We had a sports shirt, we had a blue shirt. What then happens to our minds when we're thinking about that image as well? Right, when we think about the style of shirt.
You may eliminate certain types of stores or based on the style.
Okay, exactly.
The type of shirt you buy would change where you're going after you buy the shirt.
Exactly. So we're going to do a quick exercise, and this, like I said, this is all very dynamic and engaging. And I want us to build out a story as we go through this process. Okay. So as we go through, what I want us to do is, let's just stop sharing. Okay. I want us to write on our piece of paper, I went to the store to get a shirt. All right, so on your paper, you're going to write, I went to the store to get a shirt. And we'll also do this together. All right. Okay. Now, I want everyone to shout out it as well. We're going to do this together. So I went to the store to get a shirt. Now I want you to do like, give me the name of the store. Just somebody shout it out. The name of the
Macy's, Nordstrom.
Right, this one is Macy's. Okay.
Nike.
All right. So We're going to go to the first one. We're going to go with Macy's. I went to Macy's to get a shirt. Now let's think about this as well. So I went to Macy's to get a shirt. Like, give me more information. Like, where was this Macy's located? What
Downtown.
City? Downtown where? What city?
New York City.
New York City. Any cross streets?
Fifth Avenue.
Fifth Avenue. Okay. Now the quick question is, if I said I went to Macy's in New York City on Fifth Avenue to get a shirt, what does that do to your mind when we get more specific?
It frames.
Or job interview.
Yeah, it draws you in. Now it's like New York City. You can actually imagine it. But can we go even deeper when we talk about Macy's in New York City? Right? Like, for example, like, where was this Macy's located? Was it on the first floor? Was it in the mall? Like, where was this Macy's located? In the department
It's
store.
right there on the corner. It's at Herald Square, and it's like 7 or 8 stories high.
Okay.
Men's is like on the 4th floor or something.
Herald Square, right?
Yeah.
But then that would be 7th Avenue, not 5th.
Well, we're just making the story here. 4th floor,
Yeah.
right?
I
You
was just
said-
going it, but it's Herald Square across from the Victoria's Secret,
Okay,
which is why
nice.
I know.
Don't worry about my spelling. From Victoria's Secret by the men's section, right? So what we have when we first started is I went to the Macy's in New York City on 5th Avenue over by Herald Square, like right on the 4th floor, across from Victoria's Secrets by the men's section, right? We've gone a little bit deeper, and that's just from what? How many words have we used to break this down?
Like 10.
But what was the word that we started off with?
Store.
Macy's.
Yeah, we
Oh,
started off with
store.
store, right? I went to the store to get a shirt to then saying I went to, this Macy's on New York Avenue. And now we think that's all we can go. But let's imagine this as well. Let's also look at the shirt. Give me some more information about this shirt. What kind of shirt is this?
Button down shirt.
Button down.
Purple with sequins.
Button down
Long
purple.
sleeve.
Button down. Button down purple.
Casual.
Purple with sequins. Right? Was it short sleeve, long sleeves?
Absolutely short sleeve with 1 breast pocket over the heart.
Ah, I love the specifics.
There you go.
Left. What pocket? What side of the pocket?
Oh, it's on the heart side, the left.
Okay, left pocket. Purple with sequins. Okay, so we have this story. Now I think people are like, well, we just cut those, decided on those 2 words. Let's also think about this. When it says the word went, right? Think about the word went. Like, how did we get there?
You rode the
Took
subway.
the Uber.
Uber. We took the Uber. We took the Segway took the Uber, then got on the Segway. Uber, then Segway. Right? I went. All right, we'll just make that Uber and the Segway. Right. Now, when you look at it,
you took Uber.
You took the Uber?
You took Uber rather than the went.
I
took an Uber. Okay.
I took the Uber, right? Just putting the notes in the Segway and the Macy's. And then the final one, there's 2 more that we can even look at. When somebody says, to get, right? To get, right? How did we get it? Did we buy it? Did we purchase it? Did we steal it? Did we exchange it? How did we get it?
You had a gift card and you were using it to get the shirt you were going to wear to sit on Santa's lap on the 6th floor.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
that time of year.
Gift card, get a gift card. Okay.
To buy rather than to get. To buy.
Oh yeah. Or you use to buy with gift card, right? You got a lot to cover to.
My best friend.
Say again?
A gift card from my best friend.
For best friend. Okay. So what we have here is we can even go even deeper into this, like who was it? Like you and your friends or whatever it needs to be. Right. But when you look at it, when you first started up, I went to the store to get a shirt. Now it turns into I took an Uber. I took an Uber and then got on the Segway to the Macy's in the 4th in New York City on 5th Avenue, over by Herod Square on the 4th floor across from Victoria's Secrets by the men's section to buy this gift card for a best friend. And I got him this short sleeve purple sequence with a left button on the heart side, so he could be able to go to the 6th floor and sit on Santa's lap. Right? Now, when you hear that, when we just started with that individual sentence, like what did that do to the story when we expanded on it?
It got my
visualize.
You could visualize it, right? There was a few times when somebody, I didn't see who said it though, when somebody was talking about, yeah, I know that place, over by Herald Square, right? So when you heard that, what did that do? Connection, exactly, right? So the more details that we provide, what does it do? It adds layers of
clarity,
possibility of connection.
Possibility of connection, right? And how powerful that is. And that's literally, we can even go deeper, right? Every single one of these words has its own story. Like, what do you mean Santa? It's like, was it a short Santa, a fat Santa, a skinny Santa? Like how deep we can go into these stories to really build powerful and stronger stories. And so the first one is really about building that strong connection. Now the next two I'm gonna run through really, really quick. I'm actually show this, I'm gonna run through these really, really quick. Is loading, 1 second. Sorry, wrong button, present. The first one is about really providing a lot of detail. The next one is, I want everybody to close their eyes. All right, everyone close your eyes. And I want you to just say like out loud to yourself, even on mute, is what do you hear? Okay. What do you hear?
Boat, a cruise.
A cruise, yeah. What do you smell? Right, something just crossed by your nose. Like, what do you smell?
Ocean.
Ocean. Right, look at that. What do you taste?
Seashore.
Okay. What do you feel? You hear metal, I hear humming server, a button, fresh air outside. Right? And then the other
nervous, excited.
Yeah, you hear? Right? So when we think about all of these, like even the last one is what do you sense, right? We talk about 5 senses, but the 6th one is the sense. Sometimes sense it might be like, I feel like there's somebody, or sense that somebody's outside. Right? So this next one that we're going to talk about, the first one was clarity. The second one is about sense, or the 5 senses. So when we're telling a story, right, imagine at every single moment in time, all of these 6 things are happening at every single moment of the day. Now imagine we're at that department store, we're about to pay, we're about to give them that gift card. What are some of those things that are happening at that 5 times? Throwing out different senses. What could you imagine happening? What do you hear? What do you see? What do you feel? What do you taste? Just throw some words out.
I hope I get a discount.
Okay, you feel, you're like, I hope I get a discount, you sense. All right, what is somebody, what might you be hearing? The smell of coffee. What might
the
you
conversation,
be
the people behind me,
right?
Talking about the chocolate chip cookie they're eating.
Okay.
Or the decorations in the mall.
Yeah.
The buzz of other shoppers. Funke says the buzz of other shoppers. A. Smith says Christmas music.
Right. So you have all of these. So the first one we talked about detail of our individual words, and now we're going to even the detail of that individual moment. That individual moment, all of these 6 things happening, and how we can, mirror that. And I know I'm giving you a lot. There's one more, but my goal is if you even take one thing away today, right? Obviously, I want you to take everything, but all of these tools you can use. First one is detail, breaking them down to build connection. The second one is being able to then use the 6 senses. And another one is also you talk about is the show and the tell. If I were to tell you I'm the greatest basketball player alive, how does that sound? Is that pretty convincing? Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Said it like Kanye, then maybe.
So like Kanye.
You said it like you didn't believe it yourself.
Okay, but if I told you, instead I'm the greatest basketball player, I have 6 NBA titles. I'm an MVP in all 6 of those. I'm the NBA leading scorer. What would your response potentially be? Maybe be.
Of line.
Wow.
You may be
Might be able to believe that.
Right?
I would Google it.
You would Google it, right? But at the same time, instead of me saying it, instead I'm saying the best, instead we can then do show, right? By showing, then the response will be like, dude, you sound like you're one of the best of all time, right? In addition, another example is if we use the word mad, right? Oftentimes we're writing a story and we talk about like, I'm mad, but what could we do instead? So if we say I'm mad, like what are some actions that are associated with the word mad?
Speaking loudly.
Okay, you were speaking loudly. What else is there? Or they were speaking loudly? What's another action that could be associated with the word mad? Vibrating with agitation.
Slamming a door or a desk.
Yeah.
Erratic.
Erratic. Right. Nonsense.
You want to scream.
You want to scream. So if we're writing a story and said that person was mad, or instead we go in and start talking about, I walked into the room and he was, looks like he was vibrating with agitation and just speaking in nonsense, and he started to raise his voice. What happens to that story now? That example.
I can feel the 300 words limit.
Right, you can feel it stomping his feet. And so as we talk about all of these examples of what it means to really tell a story of being specific, I'm gonna hurry up, is when we provide detail, when we go and provide and talk about some of these senses, right? It gives us a lot more detail. Right? I'm gonna do this activity to end it off, but the thing is when we're able to tell or be very, very general, right? It gives us just a general overview, especially as we're trying to make an impact in our office and our work, even in face-to-face conversations. But when we provide some more context and get more specific, it gives you a little bit of what's happening. But the more we get deeper and the more we're able to really find out those connections points, really show those 6 emotions, the more that we're able to show instead of tell, you instead get the whole picture. Okay? And so what I want to do as we talked today is we talk about like really showing who you are. Now you can't really build influence if you're not able to really build connections or share pieces of yourself. In addition, the importance of really adding detail, like simply just a word, you can go and create this tree that provides so much more information in ways of connecting and really getting people to really understand what we mean. The 6 senses have us, instead of just stating, it's actually bringing in all of the things that are happening in that individual moment, and showing versus telling really gives us more to explain what we mean rather than just simply just telling them. Now, one of the activities I'm going to have you do is I want you to go back to the example of I went to the store to get a shirt. And what I would then have you do is if you were to build out a story for 2 minutes, where I went to the store to buy a shirt, how colorful could you make that simple story, and how many different stories could there be? So I want to spend just 1 minute and see what you can able to do in terms of I went to the store to get a shirt, and write out your own story and your own narrative, picking out words and also using those 6 senses. And let's see what you can put together. And even when you talk about your own story, when you put the I, like how much of yourself do you want to bring into that story? Incorporating the detail, the emotions, and even showing instead of just simply just telling us. Okay. Now we're gonna go to just a Q&A in a moment, but I want to just hear where you at. Just one or two stories if you feel comfortable to share. Anybody want to share their shirt story example? And I'll be on for another like 10 minutes afterwards to share it as well. But
Coach, I can. I got pretty much through it. I just had a few words at the end I didn't finish. So mine started with, it's a beautiful warm day outside, and I figured why not enjoy the day a bit more? So I biked to downtown. While I was there, I stopped in a cute little new boutique and picked up the most gorgeous little wrap.
Nice.
Wow. That's as far as I got.
Nice. So any thoughts on that? What did, in terms of, we just went to the store to get a shirt. How did that sound? Any thoughts? How did it feel? Actually, Anne, tell me a few sentences. Like, how did that feel like to put that together?
I think it felt fine. Meaning, it's about taking the words and getting the details and making them mine.
Yeah, exactly. And how did it? And so we'll do one more, then I'll bring Anne's points to that as well. Anyone else want to share an example? Their story. And you can always ad lib. We'll never know.
I made it up. I'm not sure it makes sense. But
makes sense. It makes sense.
I bike farthest I could ever in my life to the message store nearby the biggest church in our city to grab the t-shirt that I have been longing for a year before the store closed up on Christmas night.
Okay, nice. So we had the same exact sentence, two completely different stories. How many different stories do you think we can make with the I went to the store to get a shirt?
Infinite.
Infinite. Okay. And so what we're gonna do is we're going about the Q&A. I just want you to use these examples, even if you're just writing a paper and you need to add an extra paragraph or an extra page, right? These are some things you can do. But overall, as we're using this to tell our own stories, even in our companies or with our friends, just following these frameworks of, okay, detail, emotion, and even showing versus telling, we immediately can become a phenomenal storyteller just by following these simple examples. Thank you. And then any Q&A, I'll be around also if anybody has any questions, but any questions, takeaways?
Wear the sequin shirt next time.
On the left chest.
Great session. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. That was a great session. So does anybody have any questions, or do you want some, or does anybody have any additions? Are there master storytellers here that want to add something else, or what do you have? After 5 o'clock, the event is over, which is in 2 minutes, but you are welcome to stay on to network a bit more because our network was very short, just 10 minutes. So does anybody have something to say? Any questions to make you guys storytellers, better storytellers?
This is Wendy. I joined in part because I've been doing some work on developing the language for my personal brand and also developing my personal statement on how to, I guess the phrase is come out in my organization, both from an LGBTQ plus perspective and from a neurodiversity perspective. And so some of the storytelling concepts that we've developed today have helped me to better frame what I want to share in that regard, in terms of being specific and painting that picture in my mind by the words that I choose to try to communicate the picture I'd like others to have in their mind. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Wendy, for sharing. So does anybody have anything else to share? Rachel, what was the input? Okay, Funke.
Hi, I'm just going to say a quick one because I have to drop off for another meeting, but I just want to say this is really great. So thank you, AK, because it also helps those who are introverts and not sure how to share their story and how their stories can be relatable. But following these steps definitely would help as well, because that was a question I was going to ask, but thinking back and looking at these steps, that would definitely help someone who's not comfortable with sharing their stories. Right. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah, and even with Lindsay, that's why we did the first activity, right? Is when we go deeper into ourselves, we have a story. When we go more specific, And as people were sharing, I think some of you just met each other for the first time, but sometimes we get so scared of sharing, but realizing, oh, that's similar. We have some connections. And so when you're able to build those connections, it also reduces the resistance. I'm no longer just buying from WITI from WTI, WITI. Instead, it's, oh, we're both from Nigeria. We both have kids that went to the same school. And then it builds that connection and also that influence and also that character, right, as we're working forward. So that's why I would say having the 3 examples are good, but if you're not willing to go deep into yourself and share those pieces, you're missing out on a big factor of all of this.
Right, thank you. Okay, bye, I have to leave.
Thank you so much, Funke, for coming. Okay, thank you. And if you guys are willing to stay on for a bit to network and maybe just share the impact, your takeaway. I know, Rochelle, you are muted. Do you want to share the impact of what you've heard today, what you're going to take away, and how you're going to change, how you're going to use it in your life?
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, okay, hi, and I would like to say this is actually I just joined earlier this week, and this is my first event with WITI, so I like to say this was an awesome event. As the previous person mentioned, I do consider myself an introvert, and on this call and sharing my individual, personal things about myself, I think it was a little bit easy, so I'm going to definitely take that away, as well as to try to better frame the stories and make connections when I am networking within my organization, so that try to build a better one-on-one connection. And so I think all of these suggestions are great, and I'll be able to take them away and put them into practice.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that, Michelle. Thank you for sharing a piece of that. Oftentimes we feel like a story is when we get up onto a stage and talk for 20 minutes, or we share it in a book. But a story can actually happen in one-on-one conversations. So if I say, oh, how are you doing today? And you say, good, what could be a question? What's the whole goal we talk about? How do we go deeper? Oh, tell me why you're good, right? Or, oh, I lived in, I went to the store yesterday. I went to I traveled over the weekend. What's some questions that we can answer? Ask them. Like I went on a vacation this weekend.
Right. Where did you go?
Yeah, where did you go? Where was your vacation, right? So we can use the same process as a story can also be in a conversation, and not just when we're standing on stage. So this is really helpful for introverts. I consider myself one as well, even though I speak. Is it helps also with that first, when you're having those first conversations with somebody not unsure what to say. They say something and all your goal is, how can I go deeper? How can I go deeper? Until you get to that point where there's that shared connection, where you don't have to work anymore for that conversation.
So I know this is Keep Painting. I know this may sound a little weird, but what if you just don't want to tell your story, but you still have to, I guess, to interact? Because I know in my case, like sometimes people will ask certain questions that can be a little bit probing, but you're like, I don't really want to tell you. Without being, coming off, kind of harsh.
So I guess the question is, how do you tell your story, but if you don't want to necessarily tell your story?
If you don't want to share too much, like if you don't want to go like super in depth, you know what I mean? Like sometimes people want to get like, oh, well, tell me about your childhood, or, oh, tell me how you did. No, I don't want to share that part of, my story.
Yeah. So I showed the picture earlier of an iceberg. And there was those 7 whys deep. Now it's up to us about how deep we want to go.
Okay.
We can decide, hey, I'm only going to give you the first level why. Well, some people might say, I'm going to give you the 3rd level why. Or some people are like, hey, you want to know about me? Here's everything. And they just unload. Right? Yes. Now the goal is to only remove those layers. They might have to ask more questions, that it gets us a little bit by a little bit by a little bit. Right? And so we can use this for ourselves, or we can also do that for other people. Like, okay, they're only going here. They might need to ask another question. Like, well, tell me more about that. Okay. Yeah. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that, until you're able to build that that connection. And that could also is another strategy. But I've done storytelling in these group connections from all around the world. And I'll tell you that you can never judge a book by its cover. but I've always learned that the more that you share, it actually have more that connects us than divides us.
Okay.
Yep.
Caroline has a question here.
So I think you touched on something that's really fascinating to me, which is psychological safety when you're connecting with another person. And our choice of words can help promote that. But I think that a very important point was just raised, that it needs to be psychologically safe for us to disclose certain things. And so do you want to comment a little on that? Because vulnerability can connect us, but it also needs to be safely done.
Right. And so thank you for sharing that. Because one thing is that I think is important, it's when you give people tools and resources, they're the ones that are now in control of how they can navigate that conversation. So now in this call, people know about, the whys, adding more detail, the emotional, but the person you're talking to may not know that. Oftentimes, to bring a more safe environment, maybe first sharing your own story and showing vulnerability, for them to first share their story and vulnerability to create a sense of safety. And the best way that we really build safety is by building rapport, and we usually are safe with people that are more like us, not only externally, but might be shared experiences, maybe we went to the same school, maybe we both have kids, whatever it needs to be, but that is really what's allowing to create that psychological safety in the more that we share. But we can decide how deep we want to go. Was that helpful, or did I answer the question?
So the month of November and December will be all about storytelling. So we're going to look at storytelling from the eyes of different storytellers, like Coach AK. In December 3rd, we have another storyteller. Then we're going to have a Christmas party where we're going to come together and tell stories of how we're just going to enjoy and prepare for the next year. So if you have more questions, please ask and think about, reflect on what he said, and come back for part 2. And you can also reach Coach AK. Did you share how you can be reached?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I think
in case they have they want to reach you, in case they are trying to develop their brand, they have, whatever areas that they want to dive deeper, do you want to share how they can reach you to just continue this conversation on a one-to-one basis, or, come to any other sessions you have?
Yeah. So I'm active on LinkedIn. The pro is, my name is AK Ikwakwar. I'm the only one in the world. So if you search on LinkedIn or anywhere, Instagram or whatever it needs to be, you will find me. Even though I am a triplet, it's very easy to find me. But LinkedIn, you can just reach out to me directly if you want to dive in deeper. Happy to have a conversation, hear your stories if you want to, have any more questions or dive in deeper. But Yunyan, you had a question as well?
Yes, it's a quick question related to a slide at the very beginning of our talk. It's a slide about factors of power of influence, personal versus organization, and character stands out for personal, networking and reputation stands out for organization. I'm not sure I understood the message and why networking and reputation.
So this was a study that was done. So this one you're talking about?
Yes.
So there was a study that was done. It's in the book by Terry Bacon on influence. And the important factor is there's 2 different levels to this. I only went very, very minimal. I did this session with Google, but there's power and then there's influence. Now, power is what really builds that trust for you to be able to do whatever you need to do. And then there's different influential tactics that you can use. Now, to remember, the greater power you have, the more capacity you have to influence. So for example, the president of the United States can have much more influence and power than just some random person on the street. And so what they talk about is these are the ways to build that personal power that could be in your organization. Like it might be knowledge, because you know the most. So me on this call, for example, I'm talking to you about storytelling. That might be knowledge. Expressiveness, there's actually a study that show you're 3 times more effective at leadership or influence the better you are at communicating, right? So strong communicators actually have greater sense of influence. History is how long you've known the person. So somebody you've known for 10 years is you might, obviously if the relationship is good, has a greater influence than somebody you just met. Attraction, right? So how people consider you to be more attractive. So let's say Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, right? Might have more power and influence, and then character, who you are as a person. Now, organizational, that's within a company, that might be, well, I'm the CEO of a company. They're gonna have more power in a situation. Resources might be, hey, I have all of the food, like I have all the food, right? So I obviously have power because I have the resources that people want, can give me power. Information might be news sources, right? The information that you have gives you more sense of influence as you're going to there for a source of information. Network is how big your network is within your company, and how many people you know, and then reputation. Now, reputation is different than character because reputation is who you are, but reputation is what other people see you as, right? Oh, he's really known to be a really good guy. He's really known for, sales and marketing. And all of us, we can build on every single one of these, but the higher that we have in any of these columns, the easier it will be for us to influence and make a more powerful story. Right?
One thing I've noticed, I'm a storyteller by nature. My father, when I was growing up, would tell he was a lawyer. He was a lawyer. And to influence us, he would tell us a story. I never understood what the stories were, and I'll be like, Daddy, get to the point, for goodness sake, And he would tell his children stories, and he would call all these meetings as if he was at work, and everybody had to have an opinion. And so he would ring a bell and tell us there were 8 children, and he didn't want to shout everybody's name. So he would ring a bell, and if it's very loud, all of us have to come down. And he would tell all these stories. My brother wrote a book. He will be speaking December 3rd. He wrote a book, I Had a Father. Or he published little snippets of the book on Facebook. And I read those stories and I thought to myself, that's quite interesting. Was that what Daddy was trying to tell us? I didn't understand the story like that. But what I realized growing up is that the more you tell stories and the more you dive deeper, the more you can connect with people on an emotional level. Because the only way you can influence people to change their behavior, change their mindset, and do something is if you can connect with them on an emotional level. Words do not change people. But when you can connect, that's where vulnerability and all of that work, empathy, that's where it all comes up. So that's why the title of this was how you can use the power of storytelling to communicate ideas and make a social impact. You can only begin to change behavior if you tell your story to a depth where you've made an emotional connection and people can feel what you're trying to convey. That's when people will take action. There's so much information you hear when you go to a meeting or when you meet somebody, but it's the stories that the person shares that you take with you, and after some years, that's what you remember when you meet them again. So that really is the power of storytelling. So knowing how to tell great stories so you can impact behavior is really essential if we want to be leaders. Because leadership is all about influence, and to influence people, storytelling is a great tool. So I just wanted to throw that on the table.
And I'll touch on that because you said it, the connection is big. And then when we think about, this is a group of women in technology, technology oftentimes can be very technical. And we might use jargon. And so sometimes we feel like we're having a conversation, but stories allow us to make complex information relatively easy to understand. So if we find it to be that they're not understanding our technical language or we're throwing out stats, then maybe it might be we use a story that represents those stats to get everybody to fully understand and really understand what we're trying to say.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
In business, when you're writing emails and trying to communicate and get your ideas across, I've gotten feedback that you use less words. You're giving us too much information. But storytelling, we expanded, a few words in a sentence to a paragraph. So what's the balance? How can you better use storytelling to get your point across and share those ideas without going into a really lengthy descriptive method that you would use for that? What's that balance?
Well, it's funny because this is a very cultural question as well. Because a lot of times I do some sales.
We lost Coach AK. He's frozen. Can you hear me? Can you just put a thumbs up? Okay, I see your hand.
I can hear you.
Yeah, so I think we lost him. Does anybody want to, answer that question or share your insights? Coach AK will come back on. So does anybody have something to share about that topic, about what Lynn said? Lindsay?
Yeah, Lynn, this is Lindsay. I think it depends on what type of information you're giving. Sometimes people get overwhelmed with data, but the expressive type that's using details and colorful language, they're a little bit more open to listening to that type of storytelling. And I know I have that issue myself. Like, I'd rather give you details and information. And sometimes people want what type of shirt did you have? And the not necessarily, it's informative, but it's also adding color to what you're saying. I'm not sure if that helps, but.
It does, thank you.
I think so too, with the audience of who you're speaking to, because a lot of times the way people think, some people think and they like lots of detail. So they want that. You may be speaking to someone else and they just want you to get to the point. They don't want all that extra stuff that goes along with it. So it's really kind of knowing who you're presenting or who you're talking to as well.
I did an experiment on LinkedIn because I share on LinkedIn. And one of the people was here, Terencia Brown from South Africa. She does a lot of sharing on LinkedIn. And I did an experiment and I used to just share events and I would look at how many people were engaged with me. But I started sharing stories before I share my events. And I started sharing emojis. I started capturing my emotions. And I tell you that in the text, the post I share, where I capture my emotions with an emoji and I tell a story and I start like, everybody has a great story. That's how I started this particular, I shared this on LinkedIn. I am telling you, if you go to my LinkedIn, you will find where I have a story. There are like 8,000 engagements and over. But where there's no story, where there's just the join, come to this event just like that, you find I just have like 100 engagement. But where I have a story and I put all my emotions and I put smiley faces and everything, and the way I start the conversation, I find that I have more engagement. So human beings are hardwired for storytelling. They want to hear a good story. So knowing how to tell a story if you want to engage with people or sell a product is absolutely essential. I have done that experiment and I was pleasantly surprised. That's why I'm going to dive deeper into this topic of how to tell a good story.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps you, Lynn.
Thank you for coming. My internet just went out.
Yes, yeah, we know that. Yeah.
Right around the middle. And I get on my phone. But yeah, really, did an amazing job. And I would say the only thing is I usually find that with email, the goal usually with email is to try to get them on the phone, right? To have that conversation. And the longer the email, the less chance that's going to happen. So my goal, like, hey, let's schedule a time and use those stories in person. Also, the use of success stories. Right? Instead of saying, hey, we've gotten this type of results, using a success story that you may have had with a client can be really, really powerful. Right? Using success stories. Like, I was working with this person, this is where they started, and by working together, this is where we got to, could be a really powerful way to use stories. And like Winfrey was saying, instead of just putting the post out there, adding layers to those stories also increases engagement and also connection points. And you can also tell. Meaning, if I was writing a story, I was at the Macy's in New York, I could actually tag Macy's in New York to get more engagement as well.
Yes, so the purpose of why you want to share the story it's quite important, and I find that people like a good story. My brother writes on Facebook, and he writes these long stories, and he has over 40,000 followers. And I'm like, you mean people see that and read all these stories? And then people reach out to me because they know he has me tagged as his sister. And they'll be like, why don't you tell your brother to turn it into books? We want to read it. And I'm like, people read this, your long stories. People love stories. They want to move out of their world and get engaged with you. So they just love content. So I'm telling you, I am very surprised about that, but it's helping me. So, oh wow, somebody called in all the way from Sydney, Australia. That's great. So that was who was that? That was she came all the way from Sydney. Treehouse was all the way from Sydney. Oh wow, I didn't know that. So she says, great start to the day. It's morning here in Sydney. And may I say the shared story that mentioned it was a beautiful day was very inspiring and makes me feel like walking out into the sunshine with a smile. Thank you for a great session, Ciao Francesca. So that's great feedback for you, Coach AK. So if nobody has anything else, I will end this meeting. Thank you so much for coming and hope to see you again on December 3rd. My goal is that for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, you capture the moments you have with your family and friends into beautiful stories that will enrich your life and get you in the right mindset for 2021, because 2020 has been a tough year for so many people. Thank you so much, Coach AK.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate
Thank you.
you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great